Hello and welcome to the Cloud Tech Associate Advanced Security Plus EDR Recertification course, focusing on the EDR components. Let's get started. This is an instructor-led technical training and design for those that have been previously certified. The course is shorter since you have been utilizing Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud. The exam will consist of 20 multiple-choice questions. Some will be from the PDF attached in this course from the full version of the course, and some will be from this recertification course. You have 1 hour to take, a 70% passing grade. We provide 2 attempts but have no fear. It is an open book and the PDFs attached to this course are searchable PDFs to assist with passing this course. So what is in store for you with this recertification course? Wanted to provide a quick case study to you to show a benefit to running the EDR component for Advanced Security Plus EDR. I will do a brief overview on Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud. In the past year with training, the Academy has learned that certain features noted in the course should be re-emphasized to make you more successful with EDR, so we will cover that next. Over the past year, new features were added and we will also cover these. And finally, there have been calls to support and wanted to provide to you the top items called into support, so you can understand these and save time providing self-service to your company to speed up support for your clients in the event these occur. Let's go over an example of how EDR would be a benefit to a client. Say you missed a patch or forgot to patch a system. This could be a bad bug in the software. Well, an attacker starts by performing reconnaissance, which I will explain later the different stages of an attack, or another way to say at this point is exploring the targeted systems. In this example, they send an HTTP request with malicious code that is tucked away in a content type header. Various queries are run to give the attacker a better sense of some of the database structure and how many records are in there. Then some SQL command is generated to identify general details of data tables and then select a sample of records from the database, a small amount. So let's say the CWA common weakness enumeration is being exploited. Now ACWEC, which is maintained by MITRE, provides a common language for discussing, finding, and dealing with causes of software security vulnerabilities when they are found in code, design, or system architecture. When ACWE is mentioned, it is a single vulnerability type. If interested, one can go to the MITRE website for the list and provides detailed definitions for each individual CWE. In our example, we are using CWA20 improper input validation, where the product receives input of data, but it does not validate or incorrectly validates that the input has the properties that are required to process the data safely and correctly. Now CWA20 is exploited, so the attacker uploads web shells to gain access to a web server. For reference, web shells are malicious scripts that will enable a threat actor to compromise web servers and then launch additional attacks. The attackers first penetrate a system or network and then install a web shell. After this, they use it as a backdoor into the web applications targeted and any connected systems. So after uploading web shells, the attacker is now positioned to collect the credentials and have access to back-end databases. The analogy is that it is easier to break into a building if some resident leaves a first-floor window unlocked and you happen to have an employee IDs. So web shells are uploaded, and the attacker runs a series of SQL commands to find valuable data. Now, getting the data is one thing. The key for the attacker is to get this data undetected. So stolen data goes into temporary files. And if a large file, it most likely would be compressed and or broken down into smaller sizes manageable to help being undetected. The attacker wants the transmissions to be small. Now they exfiltrated the data. They then delete the compressed files, want to hide their tracks. If the attacker is deep enough within the systems, they could use existing encrypted communication channels to send queries and commands. So it looks like normal activity. So this attacker has set up many servers in various countries and utilizes encrypted login protocols to mask the involvement on the server log files. They are deleting them consistently and could be every day. So as an example, they access the system via a Swiss IP address. and utilize the stolen username and/or password for the service account to get into a database. They query the database for specific information and store it in output files, and they are compressed or broken down smaller and copied to a different directory and downloaded. Once in the hands of the attacker, the archive is deleted. Since smaller amounts and undetected, they perform this over many weeks and get more and more information to extort the customer, double or triple extortion. So let's say this was a zero-day type vulnerability where a patch was not available. Not forgetting or missing a patch, the CVAU Common Vulnerability and Exposures could also be published in the NIST NIVD National Vulnerability Database, so attackers also know what the issue is. Now in the database, imagine data exfiltrated with high-profile targets, which is personally identifiable information that when used alone or with other data relevant can identify an individual. Sensitive PII can be things like a driver's license, medical records, or social security number here in the US relating that to. There is a non-sensitive PI that one can get from public sources like date of birth. As we go into the course, one will see that attackers can lurk within a system without knowledge due to bypassing protection layers. And this is where EDR provides value. If you have taken the full courses from our Fundamentals course and various Advanced Pack courses, you are aware of the core components and the Advanced Packs, but let's do a quick recap on what is in the core solution and what is in the Advanced Security Pack with EDR. On the left, you can see that we have in the core solution various cyber protection measures such as anti-ransomware capability, vulnerability assessment scanner, and device control, all prevention type solutions. With Advanced Security plus EDR, there is so much more for an overall cyber protection strategy. If you are looking at replacing another solution, this is what you will need. From local signature-based detection, exploit prevention, URL filtering, we are covering the gamut. In this course, we are going to go over the events collection, automated response, and security incident management portions you see here, which is the EDR section. We have another course for the rest of the Advanced Security Pack, so feel free to look for that and take that course to keep updated and learn more on the solution. Another benefit is the large number of data centers to choose from worldwide. There are over 50, and besides providing a local presence, it helps ensure compliance with data sovereignty regulations. At this time, let's go over certain features to re-emphasize to help you be more successful with our features related specifically to EDR. Before getting into the solution, we need to re-emphasize that attackers run their attacks in certain steps in order to achieve their objective. You might have heard of the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain model. If not, let's discuss this process to understand with prevention and detection layers together are of benefit. Attackers need to plan each step of the attack. Reconnaissance, which is the first stage in the cybersecurity kill chain. Before they attack, they need to understand their target, what security solutions are in place, what software is installed, what ports are open, like automated scanners, gathering public email addresses, who might be victim zero, mostly done via social engineering. They need to scope out vulnerabilities and potential entry points, and this can be done both online and offline, active and passive phases. The more intelligence an attacker gets at this stage, the more successful the attack is likely to be. All this information is important to prepare for the next step of an attack, which is weaponizing. The attacker then creates malware or malicious payloads to use against the target, which could be designing new forms of malware or modifying existing programs to better match, say, the vulnerabilities trying to exploit. Examples of determining what form of infiltration is the company widely dispersed with plenty of email users. Phishing. Did the company just hire a whole brand new bunch of IT folks new to the organization? Delivery is where they work to infiltrate the network or security system. They are putting plans into action. This could be deploying malware into a system via, say, a phishing email and other social engineering tools. USB stick on the ground, aka USB drop attack. Imagine some USB stick laying in the hallway that says HR payroll data on it. Many would be curious, so they take the stick and put it in their laptop as an example, and a malicious payload starts. Could also be like hacking into the network and exploiting vulnerabilities on hardware or software. Then we have exploitation, where the attack is formally launched, or that user clicks the email or plugs in that infected USB drive. So now they are successful in delivery via malware or say other forms of hacking on the system. Now the attacker would like to exploit this weakness uncovered and further infiltrate the network and learn of more vulnerabilities the attacker was unaware of prior during the reconnaissance stage. Attackers are now getting the opportunity to exploit systems by installing tools, running scripts, and even modifying security certificates as examples. Usually, an application or operating system's vulnerabilities are a target. Installation or the privilege escalation phase. Now an attacker tries to install malware or other cyber weapons, if you will, within the network to gain additional control of systems, data, and accounts. This could be with backdoors, remote access Trojans, or access token manipulation as examples. The tactics at this point intensify, and the attacker is not forcefully infiltrating the network and looking for unprotected security credentials and changing permission on compromised accounts as an example. This is a turning point in the attack cycle, as they have now entered the system and working on assuming control. Command and control, known as the C2 phase. This phrase comes from the military here, involving a soldier or a low-level actor talking to commanders about the next steps. If the hacker is hired by a larger group, that hacker may need to prove access to the system, and then that attacker may need to hear about what should happen next, which could be brief or last a while. Once an attacker has gained control of part of the target systems or accounts, the attacker can now track, monitor, and guide their deployed weapons and tool stacks remotely. Now they have gained access to privileged accounts. They might even attempt brute force attacks, search for credentials, or even change permissions to take over the control. This is where they work on trying to move laterally on the network. There are two methods this stage can be broken down. Obfuscation, this is where an attacker makes it look like no threat is present, covering their tracks. This could be file deletions, binary padding, and code signing as examples. They could leave a hidden backdoor to return and attack again. By eliminating their tracks, it becomes a challenge for service providers to understand how they got in and close the security gaps. The other is denial of service. This is when an attacker causes problems in other systems and areas to distract the security teams from uncovering the core objective of the attack. Often this involves a network denial of service or endpoint denial of service and other techniques like resource hijacking and shutting down systems. Then there is action and monetization. Technically, monetization is like the 8th step, but lumping together here. Related to action, the attackers execute the objective of the attack. After all, hackers know that simple entry has no value and must do something to make it worthwhile. Now, this process can take several weeks or months, depending on the success of all the previous steps. There are common goals here of a strategic cyber attack, like supply chain attacks, data exfiltration, or encryption. So their objective is gathering, encrypting, and extracting information. When monetizing is they initiate some ransom request or demand funds by threatening to release or sell sensitive data, personal information, or say trade secrets. This is where you hear the term double extortion. And triple extortion is another avenue for monetization. After all the previous threats, now there is a threat to perform a DDoS or distributed denial service attack unless they are paid. Of course, the earlier one can intercept and stop an attack, the easier the remediation would be. When stopping an attack during the C2 phase takes more time-consuming and advanced efforts. EDR, with our alerts, isolation, and restoring from a backup to patching to other methods, helps streamline the process when advanced attacks occur. What is EDR? Endpoint detection and response, and why have it? EDR is an event correlation security platform. It is continuously monitoring and collecting endpoint events to detect and respond to cyber threats like ransomware and overall malware. It is recording activities and events, storing endpoint system-level behavior, and utilizing data analytic techniques. The goal is to detect suspicious system behavior, provide contextual information, block malicious activity, and provide remediation suggestions to restore affected systems. There are two main advantages: incident investigation and incident response, containment and remediation. So EDRs recording activities and events taking place on endpoints. Visibility to security teams to uncover incidents that would otherwise remain invisible and have continuous visibility into what is happening. Prevention and detection work hand in hand and cover different parts of the threat landscape. With prevention, this is great at preventing attacks from even starting. But it has a narrow scope as it can stop only what it knows to be a known bad files, process, or behavior. An analogy would be to think of the criminal record database. In terms of efficiency, prevention has a low false positive rate, but being a narrow scope technology, it could produce false negatives. For reference on false positives and false negatives, a false positive is the incorrect flagging of something as malicious, when it's not. Analogy, mistaking a real bank client as a robber and guard catching him. A false negative is when a security system fails to identify a threat. An analogy for this is not understanding that someone was a robber until they leave the bank with the money. With detection, EDR solutions, there is more concern about the intention of an attacker by analyzing benign and suspicious alerts that happen on a specific workload. Every sequence of events is analyzed to understand if it might lead to bad intentions. An analogy for this would be criminals who are not in a criminal database but have bad intentions toward the goods of others. In terms of efficiency, detection has a broad spectrum of detection and sees everything but can lead to some false positives. This is why it is beneficial to have these two working together hand in hand to cover different parts of the threat landscape. Let's talk about an analogy of a bank robbery, since we talked about criminal databases earlier, and how EDR might play in a physical security incident. As you can see here, there are multiple events at play. A technician enters the bank. Now it is unclear at this step that this is a robber in disguise. They move towards the vault. Now cameras are disabled. Some of these events, if individually analyzed, are benign and don't really show anything malicious. Many people enter a bank and move around, right? But as soon as events are combined and correlated together, it increases the chance of becoming a breach. EDR understands a possible bad intent and unveils attack visibilities. In our case, interpreting all steps of the attack based on the MITRE ATT and CK framework, to the security team to take proper measures and stop the attack from finalizing. Then with the Advanced Security Plus EDR pack, service providers are not only able to stop the breach, but do so much more with a single-click response, including capabilities to investigate further using remote connection and forensic backup, contain threats by isolating the affected workload from the network, remediate by killing malware processes and rolling back the changes, recover with pre-integrated backup and disaster recovery, prevent incidents from reoccurring with software patch management, and by blocking analyzed threats from execution. So how does prevention and detection work hand in hand covering different parts of the landscape? The graph you see here shows the volume samples versus the complexity of each attack. The first three columns in the graph show a high volume of samples. For attackers, it is cheap to create variants of malware from existing malware. As a side note, you can actually get your own ransomware sample with, say, $5 or more, or heck, even free, by compiling an open source code of an existing malware. So the prevention layers block the first three categories of malware successfully. The last part of the spectrum is where the cost for attackers is increased and their techniques become more complex. Thus, the prevention layers are blind. EDR solutions unveil such complex attacks. Why are such attacks complex? Because some of them are actually using software from the workload. So no malware sample is needed, and some are using zero-day vulnerabilities that nobody knows about, and for which attacker paid money on the dark web. As a service provider, this is why you need to cover yourself and your customers with both parts to reduce risks to the environment from attacks happening, and if so, reducing the time to recover. So on the left is our Advanced Security Pack plus EDR and an alert related to malware. Regular anti-malware products mostly show that they stopped a threat. However, it lacks information about what did the attacker do until the prevention layer stopped it. Maybe it altered some registries, maybe installed a backdoor. One can feel great something was blocked, But if that backdoor is still open, there is still a risk. What is happening when adding EDR? EDR is trying to answer 4 questions: how, what, where, and when. The incident investigation screen is structured as follows. On the left side is the incident interpretation. This explains in plain English what was the intent of the attacker in each step, what artifacts they interacted with, and how did they it. In the middle of the screen is a cyber kill chain graph, which represents the sequence of events involved in the attack. On the right side is node details, where activity is related to details per node like scripts, commands that are run, and process details. It is about having visibility in the attack steps. For example, on answering the 4 questions: how did they get in and when? How did they, if they did, hide their tracks? What did it harm and how did it spread? Many have stated they have not received alerts when incidents are detected, so I want to show you how to set this up correctly. When in the console as an administrator, go to the upper right of the screen and the person icon select, and then hit My Settings. When in there, scroll to the Settings area and edit by hitting the pencil icon, and then selecting the notifications you like to receive. In particular, for EDR, look at the Security Incident Notification area. With a true positive when clicking on Remediate Entire Incident, there are a lot of actions to take, and rightfully so, since there is action that needs to be taken. One key takeaway here is the options are all selectable in one shot for streamlining remediation and business continuity. Keep in mind that is cybersecurity, backup, disaster recovery, and patching options from one screen with a few clicks and one agent. Of course, one needs to stop the threat and quarantine. Acronis will first attempt to roll back changes just prior to files and registry changes that were impacted. In the event that they could not have this rollback, whether full or partial rollback, since say a partial Windows registry rollback is not beneficial, then you are provided the opportunity to recover the workload from a backup. One can also select the recovery point, and if one already has our Disaster Recovery Advanced Pack and a primary server setup, one can perform a failover. Let's say you recover from a backup and there are various patches that were applied afterward. For example, you have a mandatory patch baseline. You have the ability to patch the approved patches already set up in the system. All of this, again, is on one console and one agent. Then you can also add to a block list to any or all protection plans to prevent future occurrences, and also set the investigation state to closed. Select your items and in one click hit Remediate. So EDR, our endpoint detection and response, analyzes system process and user activity to detect security threats. EDR provides guidance for threats that bypass prevention controls and enables threat investigations on endpoints. Prevention and detection cover different parts of the threat landscape. Acronis provides the ability to remediate an entire incident from one console with one agent. Keep in mind that is cybersecurity, backup, disaster recovery, and patching options from one screen, with a few clicks to speed up incident management and provide the ability to blocklist on protection plans to prevent future occurrences. Related to EDR, let's discuss new features and enhancements. A security analyst user role for EDR was released in September 2023. The security analyst role allows partners to assign specific permissions and access rights to users with the necessary skills to operate advanced security with EDR. Partners can provide access to a larger number of users for managing EDR incidents without worrying about granting unnecessary access to other areas of Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud. The Acronis Generic CIEM, Security Information and Event Management connector, released in June 2023, enables connection between Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud and any SIEM that supports the CEF Common Event Format over SIS-Log. SIEM support is crucial for enabling the integration of Acronis Advanced Security and EDR with external services. As a partner administrator, you can enable an integration by providing credentials for the SIEM. Select the tenants that should send data to SIEM and review a list of Acronis alerts, and select which alerts should be pushed to ASIEM. SIEMs empower MSP security specialists to identify attack routes across the network and get visibility into compromised files. Now with Acronis Generic CIEM Connector, MSPs will gain extra visibility into customers' networks, will be able to search for threats across all managed workloads, and correlate events from both security and data protection applications, and run response actions based on collected telemetry that is now enriched with Acronis data. IEM platforms are used by many MSPs for security incident investigation and remediation, threat hunting, and compliance. The integration allows service providers to select which customer tenants in Acronis should send alerts to their SIEM. Since alerts are sent to the same SIEM instance, it's possible to run correlation, threat hunting, and perform investigation for all customers in the same console. It also empowers MSPs to search for threats that were discovered on one workload in one customer tenant in other customers' environments. We provided in June 2023 a specific Microsoft Sentinel integration. This allows service providers to gain visibility into customers' networks, be able to search for threats across all managed workloads, correlate events from both security and data protection applications, and run response actions based on collected telemetry. Also in June of 2023, we provided specific log sign integration that assists service providers to provide enhanced security data collection and centralized response for their log sign unified security operations platform and Acronis Cyber Cloud mutual customers. From the SIEM data collection perspective, using LogSign's predefined integrations to create drill-down analysis, monitor, and report in real time will be easier. In the meantime, they can also create specific alerts and trigger them to centralize the incidents. From the response perspective, with the help of centralized incidents, the response can be given with automation and orchestration. Action rules of LogSign help to create a new action procedure, and/or security analyst can take the centralized incidents into account and orchestrate the team. In July 2023, we integrated with Fluency. Fluency's SIEM technology integrates seamlessly with Acronis Agent's diverse offerings, enhancing user entity correlation for comprehensive threat detection and alerting. Leveraging Fluency's unique processing language allows for advanced data table joins across different products, unlocking unparalleled reporting capabilities and fulfilling unique use case requirements. IBM QRadar integration was offered in October 2023. This offers integrated products for endpoint security, EDR, XDR, and MDR, log management, ESIEM, and SOAR, all with a common user interface. The integration with IBM QRadar enables service providers to track Acronis alerts into their SIEM solution, in addition to alerts and incidents coming from other vendors. This streamlines incident response and ensures better service level agreements for the MSP. With the IBM QRadar SIEM integration, MSPs gain full visibility of Acronis alerts across all their customer networks and endpoints, enabling them to mitigate the risk of threat actors. Data is getting analyzed into IBM QRadar, helping MSPs to detect and respond to network threats as soon as possible. Catching a breach or a backup failed in the early stages can significantly reduce not only the financial cost of a breach, but also improve MSP's level of customer service and support. Acronis created an application catalog that helps with finding all the latest integrations and filtering based on categories. When you see a particular integration, one can click on to find out more on that integration. Feel free to bookmark this location to see the latest for all integrations. Switching gears, I would like to talk about different troubleshooting issues brought to support, so in the event any of these happen to you, you will be prepared to handle on your own to resolve. So folks contacting support have asked, what is the difference between automatically mitigated and not mitigated EDR incidents? When a prevention layer stopped an attack, this would be showing automatically mitigated, and you can investigate what malware did before it was stopped, such as installing a service prior to encrypting files. When suspicious activity is detected by EDR and should be investigated and remediated, this would show as not mitigated. If EDR performs a network isolation of a particular workload, a question we get is, how does one get access to that workload to perform further investigation? If a workload is isolated, the device can still be connected to only the EDR backend, as well as other services for taking response and remediation actions, and it also provides information for further investigation. If an incident is marked as a false positive and it is added to an allow list, what kind of exclusions would be added based on this? This will depend on the component and threat type. Different allow lists would be updated. It also depends on what is actually added to an allowed list. For example, a file or a URL. A specific entity will not be detected as malicious again and is prevented in the future. If you want to see what new features occur each month and other items each month mentioned, this URL is a great bookmark for you. If you want to see a particular month, just modify the URL where it says 23.8 with the year.month you want to see. Well, we are reaching the end of this course. So what is next? Feel free to come back to watch sections of this video as often as needed. Please be sure to download the PDFs attached to this course for reference material and to assist with the exam. As a reminder, there will be 20 questions for the exam. Some are coming from the full course PDF and others are coming from this PDF. Both are included in the download area of this course to use. You will have 1 hour, need a 70% passing grade, and remember 2 attempts and open the book. The PDFs are searchable, so Control F is your best friend. Thank you for watching.